You know what? I thought we should do something here. We are baking here in this hot pavement in the high noon sun. But what I love is the lines, again, leading up to Hope right here. The vanishing point disappearing behind her. I'm going to put her kind of at the vanishing point or in the direction of the vanishing point and just play around with my super wide angle lens here, see if we can get kind of an interesting photograph. Lighting wise, the model hates it. We're going to bounce the sun right back in her eyeballs and hope they don't melt, we don't burn them out. But with the light coming in from camera right over here, her looking back at me, I'm hoping that will minimize her discomfort. And I'm being serious here. If you guys and girls decide to go out and give this a try, be considerate of the people you're reflecting direct sunlight back into. So I'm going to ask her to close her eyes until we're ready and then back at me. She doesn't have to smile. She can even give me a pained expression because it's probably how she's feeling for this. Head back towards me a little bit. Chin down. And what am I doing? I'm just getting her nose in shadow. Okay, LaDon? Okay, eyes to me. Good, good, good. I'm watching what I got in the background here. Good, good, good. Okay, now I'm really shooting into this side of her nose, so we kind of change things around. So LaDon is actually lighting up the camera side of her nose. I'm going to let you come around this side. And we were getting a little shadow on the back wall, which I didn't mind. You're going to have to really help me out here. Okay, you're going to turn your head this way. No, come back. However you were looking before, there you go. LaDon, light her up. Close your eyes a second. Your light's way, way over here. Yeah, there you go. You have to back up down the steps a little bit. Chin down again. Let's get her nose in. Okay, eyes to me. We got cool lighting on her face. I think it's kind of neat, just kind of playing around here. You know what, I'm going to go ahead, change my shutter speed, bring that down a little bit higher here, underexpose a bit. Good, right there. I'm going pretty darn wide. Might even have the reflector in here. Good, good, good. LaDon, back away some. Got you in the shot. Okay, good. I can try to align to some of those vertical lines behind me. They're not really working. Okay, again, a couple more here and we'll get out of here. Chin down again. LaDon, light her up. Good, perfect. Okay, everybody can relax and close eyes. Just a quick thing here, you know, is this how you're going to pose your subjects all the time? Maybe, maybe not. Just be considerate here. But I think we really do have some good composition going on. We have lines, we got angles, we got vanishing points all working in this particular scene right here. I didn't know if we'd have a shot here because we got the sun kind of in front of us, but however things are working right here, I still have his face in shadows, which means I can layer light upon the face so I can have my highlight, my newfound highlight, my added highlight next to the shadow to continue to always have that dimensional lighting on his face. I mean, if I just go ahead and shoot this image this way, LaDon, point your flash away from me. You know, we got a photograph of him. He's actually kind of silhouetted here. If I really went the other way to try to get the correct exposure on him, what happens is exposure is okay on him, but the rest of the shot is really, really, you know, way, way overexposed. You might be able to say, well, I can go ahead and fix that in Photoshop, Adobe Camera Raw. Who cares? Forget it. This is so easy to light to really get the sky where we need it to be. I want that sky to go pretty darn dark here. By the way, I'm just playing around with shapes in this scene here, the shape literally being the building in the background. What I like is I like the color. I like the color of the building blue, the color of the sky blue, and we got some cloud structure happening for us too, so we might get kind of a neat photograph. I've switched to my widest of wide angle lenses, the 8-16. I find, I might even show you that when you're using wide angle lenses, you can really get run into some problems. But where I want to be is, I'm going to take my camera up to, let me get it up here again. I'm at f16. I'm going to be at a 320th of a second. I was at f11 earlier, but now I'm f16 because I want that sky to really underexpose. Now what's going to happen when we do that is, well, we're going to put the flash on his face. We're going to have some really strong shadows happening here, but some really dramatic impacting shapes in the background with the building. So I'm going to move around here. I'm in a very unusual position. Lean in that way a little bit. There you go. LaDon, you got it set up? Yep. Okay, good, good, good. And I might have to have you come in just a little bit more. So I got LaDon coming in here just a little bit more. She's coming in a little bit high. When you look at the image, you can see that we've got pocketed eye sockets. It's kind of interesting. Whenever I'm shooting and I'm on the ground, I have to always remind my assistant to bring that light in even lower because he's looking way, way down at me. So now with that light coming in lower, turn your head a little bit more, chin down a bit to get the light off of his nose. And tilt your head this way a little, nose this way some more. One more time. I got to remember that I'm going for recycle time here of what? I want my recycle time to be coming in here about once every 3 seconds on full power. But I'm at full power. Why? Because I need the f/16 to get my sky really, really dark. Why don't we do one of them at f/11, which will let you go ahead and go back down to half power. And half power is good. I don't dump near as many photons out of the flash, and it saves me a little firepower here too. Okay, one more time. Turn your head a teeny bit more for me. I'm going to come in closer. Turn your head a little bit more. Good, good, good. Let's see how that's looking. LaDon, back away a little bit for me, please. I'm actually panning back a little bit more, pick up a little bit more of the surrounds here, and I think it could be kind of a neat executive portrait downtown in some big city someplace. I like the lighting right here. Here's another cool thing is you might say, Dave, I think your shadow's a little bit too harsh. You know, if I want to control those shadows on the shadow side, I can just turn on my on-camera flash right here. I'm going to dial it down to maybe 1 2/3 stops. Let's take the same photograph again. Turn your head just a teeny bit more. LaDon, I hope is tracking there. Good. Check it out. And, you know, that actually filled it in quite nicely. Here's one other thing, too. I noticed that my exposure increased. I mean, looking at it, overexposed. Why is that? It overexposed because when I have this thing turned on, it's going to limit my shutter speed up here to a 250th of a second. That's the native sync speed. I always have to be sure that when I'm outside doing this stuff that I have high speed flash sync enabled so that if my camera's set on a 320th of a second, my flash will not reset it to 250 because it's saying, hey, high speed flash, I can handle it, let me take care of it. I'm always turning this head just slightly past center here for the shot. We got all the blue skies, we got that building in the background kind of cool right there. I think it works. I could come down here and crop even lower, but with this wide angle lens, I really get some distortion. So I'm just going to cropping like right here at the waist, and I think that minimizes my distortion. Another way to minimize distortion with wide angle lenses is really with just by keeping the subject near the center of the viewfinder. One more time, Ben, right here. Let me see how that's looking. Pretty good. And again, I'm going wide again. But here's a good example of how I can really distort him here in the shot. Good. And now when you take a look at that photograph, he is getting pretty broad based here at the bottom of the photograph. And believe it or not, there's a way to kind of fix that. You can use the lens correction tool in Lightroom, and actually in a vertical position, you can actually twist it around a little bit, and it'll minimize that bottom part of the photograph, or that bottom part of your subject. And that works particularly well if they're in the foreground of the scene, as Ben is here. I'm looking here at our urban landscape right here. I got this really cool cylindrical building right here. Behind that, I have this really neat building back there, and what I like is I like the TP shape on it, the triangular shapes on it, so it's got shapes happening for me. And then next to that, I got the other building. It's got a couple little zigzags. See the zigzags happening on the corner of the building going up? I think that really adds interest. So when you start thinking about it, I got zigzags, which are diagonal lines. I got the triangles, which are more diagonal lines, and these are contrasting with the cylindrical shape of this building right here. And then you drop down lower, and what do I have? I kind of have this checkerboard of these other shapes right here, checkerboard here, but then round on the right-hand side. Lots of shapes happening here, lots of cool things happening in our urban landscape. So I'm thinking we're going to have Hope change into something maybe a little bit brighter, whatever, because this could be pretty standard. If we had her in the black, that would work, I think, but you know what? I want to draw more viewers' attention to her, so why not put her in something really, really bright, like this red-topped outfit she's putting on right now. If you look at the blue sky, I got blue sky between the centermost building and the building on the left, and the centermost building and the building on the right. Why don't I move slightly more to my right, and now what I have is just one piece of sky coming in here, but now look at the lines of the center building. Now they're diagonal lines that are leading right to my cylindrical building right on the right-hand side, and that might give me something to play with. So right in this area here, we have just a fabulous amount of shapes that we can really use in our background for our composition. What I want to do here, I'm thinking, okay, do I want to bring flash in? I mean, you've heard me say it a gazillion times, I'm huge with using off-camera flash. But you know what, we're in this bright sun, maybe I'll just use the sun itself as my light source. Against this background with my wide angle lens, you know, I got the building soaring, I can have her really looking up high, so why don't we let the sun be our main light source here. I've taken one quick test photograph that I think is looking okay. I think I can probably, I'm at a 6/40th of a second, I think I got there by mistake. Let's do 320, just stand there. I just want to see how the sky is going to be framing up for me here. Not framing up necessarily, but how light or dark it's going to be. And I kind of like what I got right here. So exposure-wise, ISO 200 all the time when I'm outdoors. And I'll repeat this, I probably said it in another Kelby training video, but I'm at the lowest ISO I can get to right here, which is 200 on my 7D. And you're thinking, how come only 200? Because I have highlight tone priority turned on. And I'll tell you, in these completely varying super bright conditions, you want highlight tone priority turned on. It is one of the features in the newer cameras from the 40D forward that literally gives you about a 1 1/3 stop latitude on overexposure. Yes, with it turned on, you can be overexposed to 1 1/3 and it'll still save your photograph. Don't ask me how they do that. It's Harry Potter magic in this thing, but pretty cool how it all works. So f11, 320th of a second, is giving me an image when I look at it that is halfway decently exposed. I'm also getting some bonus shapes going on here in the courtyard of the industrial park that we're standing in. So now the next decision I have to make is, okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 buildings I can pose her against as a background. Which one do you think would be best? Okay, let's just take a peek. And then I'm going to ask you the question, much like David Copperfield would, okay, where would be the best building to pose her? Okay, I'm thinking probably the black one over here, because it's nondescript. These things have all these other kinds of things going on, textures, whatever you want to call them. They could be kind of get behind her face, be a little distracting. But if I put her in front of this simple black building over here, we have this cool red top, we have a cool profile in that, I think it might work pretty well for us. So let's see what we get. Okay, you're going to kind of head back up again. And do both, both hands up, because that way, both hands up. Now I could maybe do both hands up, but what happens is I kind of shoot into the armpit, which is not the most flattering way to photograph my bride, I'm such a wedding guy. So I'm going to, exactly what she's done here, drop the elbow down, that solves my problem. The other hand's going up, I think that's working okay. And notice the nose shadow on her face right here. It's dropping across the lip. I'm going to try to create that loop lighting pattern that I talked about way back on Kelby training number 3, with just that little loop shadow on her cheeks and on her face. So when we see it, you will see it for sure, because I'm using the point light source, the sun. So chin up for me just a little bit. Oh, there it goes right there, a little bit higher, a 1/4 inch higher. See the loop shadow coming off of her face? That's exactly what I want. This side of the nose is in shadow. I'm actually kind of in the profile view for her right here. I'm coming up pretty close, putting her head against the black background. I'm going to shoot this a couple of different ways, I'm thinking. You know what, I kind of like horizontal. I'm not liking the elbow sticking out the far side, so what happens if that hand just hits the hip? Oh, right there, what you just did. Okay. Also, I'm going to turn her hand sideways just a teeny bit. Right there, shoot into the side of the hand. Head back up in the air again, Hope. Turn your nose away from me, right, come back a fraction. Eyes can stay closed, hair's blowing. I'm going super wide here. Her against the black building. I'm going lower still. We got all kinds of cool things happening, from the wind blowing to her head position against the black building right where I want it. You see the vertical element right above her ear there. So I want that coming in her head about 1/3. There's that rule of thirds for us one more time with everything else. And Hope, I'm going to ask, is there any way you can open your eyes, or no? Mm-hmm. No? Yes? Yeah. Go ahead. Why don't you do happy one time for me? Happy, eyes open. Good. I think we got it. You don't ask him to do that very long. I think I'm going to use a checkerboard building this time. And even though I'm using the checkerboard building, now I got her faces and shadows, I've got to bring my auxiliary light on into the shot. That auxiliary light can either be a reflecting panel, or the auxiliary light can be my off-camera flash. You know, the thing is, I've got everything hitting here. I'm going to slow down my shutter speed a bit more, because I'm not quite getting enough fill coming off of here. I want her body, turn your body this way, because I want it to kind of be in shadow. Okay, LaDon, pops, chin down again, okay, LaDon, light her up, right there, good. And hang on, this is a perfect example of how people use reflectors wrong too. Let me get a shot. I'm going to come in close here on her face. LaDon, light her up. We got it, and I hope you can see it in this shot. Maybe we'll show a cropped photograph. But with the light coming down from this direction and her above me, what does that do to my lighting? What it does is it throws shadows up across her nose, which is what I call Halloween shadows. I'm using my reflector outdoors here primarily as a key light, not as a reflector fill. I do it half jokingly by taking a reflector always down here, kicking light back up. I don't want light to be kicked up. I want the light to be the key light coming in. And this gets tricky for the assistant but I think, you know what, you can put it over your head and actually see the light on her face. Because she's way up there, you got to get that pretty high. You could, let's see what that does. Catch the light if you can. Okay, you got it pretty good. Okay, chin down for me again. Okay, LaDon, light her up. Right there, there you go. Another thing, whenever you're using wide angle lenses, probably best idea to keep your subject as close to the middle as you can because of the distortion that the lens creates inherently. I'm just kind of playing around with a couple other positions. This position right here has a building in the back growing out of her head. Not very pretty, but if I come over here, in fact, you know what? Looking at this position here, LaDon, light her up. And you're looking back at me. You can come around this way more, LaDon. No, you're fine, Hope. Okay. Okay, right here can be kind of cool. I'm also trying to work my vertical lens, although I'm going to get some distortion, vertical distortion. But if I put her in a corner, I really make her even more long-legged than she already is. So you don't want to do that. I think, again, we got kind of a cool series of photographs. And I guess what I like to say when we're doing something like this is, for me, and again, I'm known as kind of the wedding guy, but I just love playing around with lines, shapes, and forms. Whether it's a bride standing up here, we do the same thing, or a groom, whatever, it doesn't make any difference to me, but it's the subject against the model, against the beautiful surrounds back here, and just playing, if you can get that term in your mind, just playing with all the shapes and all the sizes and all the colors. That's kind of what's fun about composing these images, and that's why I wanted to put this video tutorial together, is because I think if you can get this in your head, I think you too can go out there and really have a great time shooting the next time you're going out there shooting. We're still working the same part of the urban landscape that we were doing those wide-angle lens photographs in of Hope, but now I'm going to come in and let's say do the executive portrait. You know, the Wall Street banker. That's what we're going to be doing here. Think Inc. magazine, think Fortune magazine. Those are the kinds of portraits we're trying to pull off. I've got the checkerboard back here. I think that works. I've now put away the wide-angle lens because, you know what, I would have had to get so close to him to be able to frame up that. He would have gone really strange looking. So I've gone back to telephoto lens, which I can really then just come in here, frame him up on however many of those squares I want, and really make them be really cool compositional elements. Again, kind of just using the shapes, rectangular, not rectangular, but the little square shapes behind him is working cool. Well, another thing I haven't really talked about, but as I want to create a visual balance whenever we're composing these photographs. If I'm going to put the groom in one part, the wedding side coming out of me. If I'm going to put our guy, put Ben in the right side of the viewfinder, you know, he represents a certain visual mass in the scene. His size, his stature, everything else. It just has a certain visual mass about it. I want to balance his visual mass with another visual mass over here, so we got the scene visually balanced. That's the term I'm using because that's what I want you to understand when you're looking at this video. So first of all, Ben, let me have you just kind of, I'm going to have you just go over to the, whatever that thing is there. Just get next to it. Okay, and right about there, well, I see the sign right in front of him, so let me have you come forward a bit. Okay, so we've actually blocked the sign with him standing in front of it. Now just give me an elbow or just a hand right up here. I'm sorry, yeah, leaning on there. Other hand, I'm thinking in the pocket, crossing the legs. Perfect, that's exactly what I want. That's kind of the easiest pose you can put any guy into. Leaning, whatever, and do a little leg cross at the bottom. Usually the outside leg, well, I think that's working good. Now, notice the light on his face. Let me do a quick tight close-up of him here, and you'll see that we got light right here on his nose. I've just done right here. I need to make that disappear. Okay, so Ben, where's our light coming from? Let me turn your head this way, the other way, chin down. Okay, right there. So that's telling me that's got his head in the shadows. Now I got a frame up to that, and I'm thinking I'm going to be, you can keep your eyes closed because I know it's bright out here. So I'm going to be right about this area right here. So let me just go ahead and just evolve into this photograph. I think it's looking kind of cool. We got this one right here. I still got his eyes closed, but now you can see I've got a leading line of this little concrete structure leading up to him, and I've got my squares behind him, Hollywood squares, whatever you want to think about it. But look very, very closely, and right from his shoulder to his elbow, I got all that, all that urban stuff there. I'm going to take a camera's position a little bit lower and make that all go away. How far down do I have to go? I can actually get all the way down here. And now when I take the photograph again, just evolving into it again, I'm kind of liking what I got, but his head's in the shadows. Next thing we need to do is add the lighting. LaDon, jump on in with your, you know what, let's do the reflector first. Now some people can really take the reflector. Hope was doing great with it. Just point it at, okay, now looking back at me. And he's squinting like crazy. Some people don't have a very high tolerance at all for this panel. So get it off of them, go to a plan B, and my plan B is going to be the strobe because it's just going to be that instant of exposure. Another thing that should be helping Ben too, when we were in that, when we were in some of our brighter areas of the video, he was squinting because of this very bright, almost white concrete we got around. We've got the grass lawn in front of him here, and you know what, that's a lot darker tonal value wise, and I think he can tolerate that a bit more. So not a bad spot to do our, our executive portrait. So low enough camera position. LaDon, let's go ahead, just go to a quick test. I'm thinking everything should be pretty much about the same. I'm 250 f11, 200 ISO. Let's put his face back in shadow, turn your head a fraction, chin down a bit, eyes back to me. I'm going to frame his head up. If you look very, very closely, I'll do a test at the same time. Okay, we got him lighting up there pretty good. There's a little window pane behind his head. I'm actually putting his head within that window pane. This is something that, I'll tell you, it's coming out and every time we're shooting here today. It's what I would call an interior frame. As a matter of fact, all these boxes between his head, the Hollywood squares between his head, are what we call interior frames. So we have the exterior frame of the viewfinder right here, but then all those boxes are frames within this frame right here. So I've talked a gazillion times before. I'm going to put little tic-tac-toe boards both on my screen right here, in my mind, metaphorically speaking, and the interior frames I'm going to do the same thing for. So in my mind's eye, I'm going to imagine a tic-tac-toe board on that little Hollywood square back there, and I'm going to position his head on one of those nodal points where they cross, where the lines cross. Bottom right or bottom left down here is nodal point 1, up here's nodal point 2, over here's 3, and down over here's 4. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be bottom left quadrant 1, top left quadrant 2, top right quadrant 3, bottom right quadrant 4, or nodal point 1, 2, 3, 4 as well. Okay, here we go. Here's the shot. Okay, turn your head this way a little bit more. Okay, and back at me. Good. Okay, liking that okay? All right, good, good, good. Let's just try one vertically right here. Still nodal point number 4, if anybody's keeping track. I'll tell you one thing too about this lens that I'm using. It actually has some barrel distortion, which means I can actually see it's kind of coming in like this, sometimes out like that, but it's actually coming in. That's a simple fix with the lens correction feature in Lightroom 3. You can actually just do it on auto mode, find the 18-200 and go pop, put it right back in place, no big deal. I'm not quite sure what this location is. It looks like an amphitheater of some kind, but it is very, very cool. It's pretty darn hot too, with all the bright concrete, it's almost white concrete, and it's almost creating its own light source. It is its own light source in our photograph here. Sun's going in and out behind the clouds again, so one more time we're challenged with the light value or the light intensity in the course of our shoot here. What I'm really turned on to are really the curves that I see. So this is a beautiful example of line and composition leading the viewer's eye to our subject. We've talked throughout this video about the rule of thirds, my tic-tac-toe board, nodal points, and everything else. So we're going to work here quickly because it's pretty hot. Everybody wants to get out of the sun, but I still think there's a great photograph here. So I may or may not. Let's take a couple of photographs without the flash going off, and then we'll take a couple with the flash going off. Okay, right here. This is saying we're overexposing her a bit. So I'm at 250 f11 ISO 200. But you know what? Once I'm looking through the meter and I'm just trying to use my shutter speed right here and do center detent on my exposure. But remember, all this stuff is really, really white. And what your camera's trying to see is a mid-tone gray out there. So I don't really want the proper exposure is not going to be with your meter right in the center if you're just bouncing off of all this brightness. Actually, the better exposure would be at least a stop over, maybe a stop and a half, maybe even 2 stops over. The interesting thing is I have highlight alert turned on my camera. I'm getting no blinking, which is telling me that nothing is slamming up against the right-hand side of the histogram here. So anyway, but I still kind of speeded it up a bit. And since I speeded it up, what's going to happen is I'm going to get kind of a very underexposed model right here. That's not looking good, so I'm going back to my 250. And then the reason I like 250 is, my gosh, I can bring my flash and maybe light up her face just a little bit more. Hope, I want you to just work that pose just a little bit more, so I got more S-curve or something going on. Turn back towards me a little bit more. Let's see. What happens if you go the other way and then bring your head back this way? Yeah, I like that better. Turn your head a little bit more, body a little bit more too. Okay, right there. Okay, just available light. I got to be very careful that I'm getting that little tip of the light on her nose, so we'll have to watch for that. Okay, Hope, you're going to turn your head around. LaDonna, I'm going to ask you to bring light in now. We got the wind blowing. Okay, good. Tip of the nose is in. Let me take this shot quick. Tip of the nose is in sunlight. Drop the nose down a little bit more right there. You can look down if you want. LaDonna, you got her lit up there. I got her at nodal point number 4. Can I have you move a little closer to the edge, Hope, just a bit? The reason I want to do that is I want more space on the right-hand side of her, so I'm actually leading her here. Okay, again, chin down a little bit. LaDonna, turn your head towards me some more. Head towards me some more. Straighten up your head a little bit. Turn your nose away from me. Chin down a little bit. Okay, there you go, just down, good. How about eyes to me if you can? Lips together. LaDonna, we firing? Change up the pose just a little bit. Chin down again so we can keep light. Okay. Eyes to me again. Good. Again, one more. All right, let's do one more here. And I think we got it though. All right, I think we're good. Anyway, we put a nice light in her face, and it really looks cool to me in the viewfinder. Everything is so bright behind her, but it's not overexposing, it's not blowing out. And then her face in the shadows, when we added additional light to her face, we really got that nice dimensional look to her too. So when we look at the photograph, we have the lines just streaming and flowing right into her. There she is in that hot red top and the short little mini, and just viewers' attention is going right to her in this photograph. Lines work, outfit work, colors work, expressions work, and the lighting works. We're here in front of the fountains, and I thought I'd just try to pull off a quick photograph here. You know, we talk about line, shape, form, textures. We're just really looking at some textures behind her right here with the fountain just kind of shooting up. It's kind of going up and down. I have to time it so that they're really high. I'm up on this chair here. Normally I have a little step ladder with me, but I'd be on a chair because I want to shoot down so I can be sure that she's fully surrounded by the water when we take the photograph. Once again, let me take a couple photographs without the flash firing, then we'll do a couple with the flash firing. You'll see the difference the added flash makes to our image too. Anyway, here we go. I'm turning you off first. Okay, Hope, back to me. So there's a couple of photographs, nothing going on, face just almost dark with shadow. Turn the on-camera flash back on, do it again. I'm sitting here at a 3/20th of a second, f11, 200 ISO. Okay? Hope, yeah, you got it right there. I'm cropping her pretty close, just from kind of waist up. Checking it out right here. Turn your head a little more. Good. Okay, eyes to me. Okay, here we go. And I'm seeing the shadows are pretty harsh. I'm actually going to slow it down to a 200th of a second and see what that does for me compositionally. That's looking kind of nice. I've kind of opened up the shadows a bit. I'm even showing the top part of the fountain right here, which I think is interesting because everything's kind of going dark behind her. And I'm actually leading her in the, let's say, number 1 quadrant right here, bottom left. And I think that's working pretty well. Eyes to me. Kind of liking that pretty much. Happy, happy. Great, great, great. Hang in there. You know, I can go a full length here if I want. Happier. Hope. Happier. There you go. All right, good. And I really don't like it full length. I really like it coming in what we call 3/4 length. Good, right there. I've changed the position of her over to the top right-hand corner over here. I think we're good to go. I think we got a nice series here. We're just playing around with the textures this time and just her position against the background. There's sometimes when in the frame, I actually had her framed up over here on the left-hand side. I was actually putting her opposite the vanishing point because when you look down the fountain, of course, the vanishing point is camera right. And then there's sometimes I just wanted the fountain behind her, so I had her maybe over here, camera right. So I just played around. She hit a couple of different poses, but I think we got some neat stuff.